Picture this. Somewhere inside Buckingham Palace, in a vault most of the public will never see, there are 7 tiaras waiting for one specific woman. They are listed by inventory number on Royal Collection trust cards. They are wrapped in tissue and velvet. They have been worn by queens before her, and at least 3 of them have already been quietly loaned to her over the past decade, like the institution practicing for an inheritance it knows is coming. The Princess of Wales is 43 years old. She is not yet Queen Consort. But the 7 tiaras I want to walk you through today, they are, by every reasonable reading of royal jewelry tradition, the pieces she is most likely to inherit when the time comes. Imagine standing in the jewel house at the Tower of London. Imagine walking past the glass cases, the imperial state crown, St. Edward's crown, the sovereign's scepter, and out the back, through a door visitors never see, into the working vaults where the tiaras live when they are not being worn. The imperial state crown stays on display. The tiaras do not. They sit in their wrappings. They wait. And today I want to tell you which 7 of them are waiting for her, and which one, honestly, I would most hope to see her wear first. I'm Geoffrey Whitcomb. Welcome to the channel. Before we open the first piece, let me tell you why this matters more than most royal coverage realizes. Royal jewelry inheritance is not personal property in the way most people imagine. The bulk of the British royal collection is held in trust by the institution. Pieces are loaned to consorts and monarchs for use during their lifetime. They are not given. They cannot be sold. They cannot be passed to a daughter who does not become queen. The Princess of Wales does not yet own any of these tiaras. She wears them by permission. But what determines which pieces she will eventually be permitted to wear, and how often, and at which events, is a quiet protocol negotiation between the crown jeweler, the household, the historical fit, and the wearer's own preferences. You'll see why I'm bringing this up when we get to the 3rd tiara, but for now, hold on to this idea. Catherine is not selecting the pieces. The pieces are, in a sense, selecting her. Let's begin with the one she has worn most often, and the one I would argue she has already made her own. The Cambridge Lover's Knot Tiara. You will recognize it immediately. It is a band of 19 interlinked diamond arches, with a large pear-shaped pearl drop hanging from the center of each arch. The pearls move when she moves. They catch light from below in a way no static stone could. The tiara is not subtle. It is not for daylight. It is for state occasions, white tie receptions, the long evenings when the cameras are watching and the gold of the room is reflected across diamond. The piece was commissioned in 1913 by an early 20th century Queen Consort, the wife of King George V. The original design called for 14 knots and pearl drops, and the workshop at Garrard executed it from older Cambridge family stones, which is where the name comes from. It was inherited by the late reigning queen in 1953, and it became, over the following decades, the favorite tiara of the late Princess of Wales, Diana, who wore it at virtually every formal occasion of her early married life. Picture this: the 1981 wedding tour of the United States, the 1985 state banquet in Washington, the arrival ceremonies in Spain, in Australia, in Japan. The Cambridge Lover's Knot was on her head. She did not love wearing it. There are accounts that she found the pearl drops gave her headaches, that the weight pulled at her hair. But she wore it, and she made it, in the visual memory of the world, hers. What people forget about that early period, and what I find most striking when I look back at the press photographs, is how few tiara options the late Princess of Wales actually had in her first decade as a working royal. The royal collection contained dozens of tiaras, but the working list available to her was small. The Spencer tiara, her own family piece, appeared at her wedding and at a handful of state events in the 1980s. The Lover's Knot was loaned to her by the late reigning queen. The Cambridge Lover's Knot tiara could be detached and reconfigured in 2 different ways. Without the pearl drops, it became a simpler diamond arch band, lighter on the head and shorter in profile. Diana wore both versions, and she wore them so often, between 1981 and 1992, that the visual memory of the late Princess of Wales is, for an entire generation of British viewers, inseparable from the silhouette of those 19 pearl drops. The pearls themselves are extraordinary. They are matched South Sea pearls, among the largest natural pearls ever set into a tiara of this period. They were sourced specifically for the tiara in 1913 from a London supplier, and the matching took nearly a year. To replace one, even today, would require either the destruction of another antique tiara or a custom-cultured pearl produced over a multi-year farming cycle. The Royal Collection treats them as effectively irreplaceable. When the late Princess of Wales died in 1997, the tiara returned to the Royal Collection vaults. It was not worn in public for 15 years. The late reigning queen had a curious instinct. She would not wear pieces that were too closely associated with one of the women who had come before her. Some pieces sat dormant for decades. The Cambridge Lover's Knot was one of them. Then, in 2015, a new wearer was permitted to take it out. The Princess of Wales, then Duchess of Cambridge, 4 years married, wore the Cambridge Lover's Knot for the first time at the diplomatic reception at Buckingham Palace. The tiara had not been seen since the 1990s. The decision to bring it back, with that specific wearer, was deliberate. It was an institution telling the world that the line of inheritance was settled. She has worn it 8 times since. State banquets, diplomatic receptions, the 2017 Spanish state visit, the 2018 Dutch state visit. Every appearance is, in its way, a quiet acceptance that this piece is now hers in everything but name. I confess, of all 7 pieces I expect Catherine to inherit, the Cambridge Lover's Knot is the one I most expect she will make her signature when she becomes queen. Diana wore it. The provenance line through her predecessor to her is the kind of inheritance moment that defines a reign. And honestly, when I see her wear it now, I see 2 women. The one who is wearing it, and the one who taught the world what it looked like. Which brings us to the second piece. And this one I find rather more surprising. The Strathmore Rose Tiara. Most royal coverage skipped this piece for 90 years. It was a Queen Mother's piece, made in 1923 by Garrard for the wedding of an early 20th century duchess, the woman who would later become the Queen Mother. The tiara is small by royal standards. Diamond rose flowers linked together by curving leaves set in white gold. It can be worn as a headband or, with a different mounting, as a simple band of stylized flowers. Versatile, modest, romantic in the literal sense, it is, after all, a tiara of roses. The Queen Mother wore it during the 1920s, before her marriage to the future king made her a figure of state consequence. After 1923, after she became Duchess of York, and then in 1936 became Queen Consort, she stopped wearing it. The Strathmore Rose disappeared from the public record for nearly 100 years. Then, in late 2024, the Princess of Wales wore it to a state banquet at Buckingham Palace, honouring the President of Germany. The reaction in the royal coverage world was immediate. Where had this come from? Why had it been kept hidden for so long? And what did its choice, over the more obvious tiaras like the Lover's Knot or Queen Mary's fringe, actually say? Imagine the conversation that produced that decision. The Princess of Wales has access, through household consultation, to the working list of available tiaras. The Crown Jeweller advises. The household reviews the political symbolism of the evening. State banquets are not casual. The choice of tiara is reading material. Every royal correspondent in Europe will be analysing it the next morning. The Strathmore Rose was a Queen Mother's piece. Choosing it for a state banquet was a deliberate quotation of the Queen Mother's quiet, durable consort role. It was not a tiara of grand consort spectacle. It was a tiara of long marriage, family continuity, the kind of consort role that outlasts the spectacle decade and continues into the long, quiet years. What is less widely understood about the Strathmore Rose, and what I want you to know, is the specific provenance of its diamonds. The piece was given to the future Queen Mother by her father, the Earl of Strathmore, as a wedding gift. The diamonds came from older Strathmore family pieces, earrings, brooches, a necklace, that had been in the family since the 1840s. The roses were not a fanciful choice. The Strathmore family heraldic device is a heraldic rose, and the tiara was effectively a wearable heirloom of the family, that Elizabeth Bowes Lyon was bringing into the royal house. To choose this piece in the early 21st century is to invoke not just a Queen Mother, but a specific family tradition. Scottish, ancient, modest, Catholic adjacent in its Highland background. When the Princess of Wales wore it in 2024, the German president was the guest of honor. Germany is, as a state visit, less politically charged than some others. But the choice of the Strathmore rose over the more obvious wedding tiara repertoire read to royal correspondents as a deliberate attempt to signal something of substance. A queen in waiting who chooses heritage over spectacle, and who knows enough about the collection to surface a piece that had been forgotten by the public for nearly a century. I confess, when I saw the press photographs from that night, I had to set them down for a moment. The Strathmore rose looked exactly the way the record said it would. Light, fresh, unencumbered by previous wearer memory. The roses caught the light in a way that no diamond cluster does, because the petals are small and many, rather than large and few. The Princess of Wales walked into that banquet wearing the most modest of the 7 tiaras I am discussing today, and somehow that modesty was the most confident statement of all. I'd argue, and this is a curator's reading, not a fact, that the Strathmore rose is the piece Catherine could make most fully her own. Because no living memory binds it to a previous wearer in the way Diana binds the lover's knot. The tiara has been dormant for a century. Its associations are family deep, but not personality deep. Whoever wears it next gets to redefine what it means. Honestly, this is the piece I would most hope she chooses for her coronation, whenever that comes. You'll see why I'm bringing this up when we get to the 5th tiara. But first, the 3rd piece. The lotus flower tiara. This one has a complicated provenance. It was originally a necklace, a wedding gift to the Queen Mother in 1923, the same year as the Strathmore rose, given by her husband. In the early 1930s, the necklace was converted into a tiara. The Queen Mother wore it occasionally. Princess Margaret, the Queen Mother's younger daughter, inherited it after the Queen Mother's death in 2002 and wore it through the 1950s and 1960s. After Princess Margaret's death in 2002, the same year as her mother, the tiara entered the royal collection. The late reigning queen never wore it. It sat dormant for 10 years. Then in 2013, the Princess of Wales wore it for the first time to a diplomatic reception. The choice was striking. A tiara associated with Princess Margaret's youthful, slightly bohemian decades, suddenly on the head of the future Princess of Wales. The visual memory of Margaret in the lotus flower, black and white photographs from the 1950s, her eyes lined heavily, her hair set in waves, was strong in older British viewers. To see it on Catherine, in colour, at a 2013 reception, was to see the tiara wake up after a long sleep. She has worn it 5 times since then, most recently in 2022, just months before the late reigning queen died. The lotus flower has, in the past 2 decades, become a kind of secondary signature for her. Not as iconic as the lover's knot, but distinctive in a way that the more grand tiaras cannot be. I want to be careful with what I say next, because Princess Margaret was a complex figure in the British royal family, and her tiara choices were part of how she defined herself. The lotus flower, when she wore it through the 1950s, was a young woman's piece. Margaret was 20 in 1950. She had not yet had her sister become queen. She had not yet had her marriage end. She had not yet had the long retreat into mystique. The lotus flower belonged to a version of her that was, in some ways, the last version of British royal womanhood that was permitted to be young and stylish and a bit reckless without immediately becoming a national crisis. When the Princess of Wales wore it in 2013, royal correspondents read it as a deliberate decision to wake the piece up after a long sleep. But I would argue the choice was more delicate than that. To wear the lotus flower is to claim a lineage of British royal women who were not simply consort or queen. Princess Margaret was sister of monarch. The Princess of Wales is daughter-in-law of monarch. Both occupy a position adjacent to, but not central in the line of succession. The lotus flower belongs to that adjacent space. It was perfectly chosen. The piece itself is technically remarkable. The original 1923 necklace had a single lotus flower as the central pendant, with myrtle leaves and a chain of smaller flowers. When it was reconfigured into a tiara in the 1930s, the central flower was retained as the dominant feature, and the chain elements were rearranged into a curving band. The diamonds are old mine cuts, pre-1900, and they catch evening light in a way that modern brilliants do not. There is a slight warmth to the stones, a hint of yellow that distinguishes them from the cold whiteness of the Cartier halo or the Cambridge lover's knot. Cosmetically, the lotus flower is a warmer tiara, and it photographs differently. On the Princess of Wales, it has tended to appear in slightly warmer lit settings, gala dinners, evening receptions, where its tones can sing. What I find most striking about the lotus flower is that its inheritance to her is almost certain. The piece has no clear next claimant after Catherine. It was Margaret's. Then it sat. Then it moved to Catherine through proximity and access. There is no other current royal woman with a documented connection to it. By the time of the next coronation, the lotus flower will, in practical terms, already belong to her. 3 tiaras down, 4 to go, and the next piece is the one that connects everything. Queen Mary's fringe tiara. This is the family wedding tiara. Made in 1919 by Garrard for an early 20th century queen consort, using diamonds from a necklace that had been a gift to her from her mother-in-law. Its design is a band of 47 sunray fringes, narrow, tapered diamond spikes radiating outward from a base band, suggesting a kokoshnik or a Russian-style headdress. The tiara was inherited by the Queen Mother in 1953. The Queen Mother loaned it to her elder daughter, the late reigning Queen, for her wedding in 1947. The late reigning Queen subsequently wore it as monarch on multiple occasions. The tiara was loaned to her daughter Princess Anne for Anne's wedding in 1973. It was loaned to her granddaughter Princess Beatrice for her 2020 wedding, and in 2011 it was worn by the Princess of Wales, then Catherine Middleton, for her own wedding to Prince William. Picture this: April 29, 2011, Westminster Abbey. The Princess of Wales arrives in an Alexander McQueen wedding gown. On her head, the Queen Mary's fringe, borrowed from the late reigning Queen, the same tiara her late mother-in-law had worn at the same abbey 30 years earlier, had not. The piece was a quiet statement. The future Princess of Wales was not arriving as her late mother-in-law. She was arriving as someone with her own relationship to the institution. The tiara has been part of British royal weddings for over 100 years. Almost every royal bride of the 20th and early 21st century who has wanted a family tiara has been offered this one. The continuity is striking. The Princess of Wales does not own it now, but in practical terms, the next time it is worn at a major royal event, she will be one of the few women living with both the precedent and the access to wear it. I expect she will wear it again. State banquets perhaps, anniversary events. The fringe is one of those pieces that does not look like a regular tiara. It can be worn slightly differently each time, from straight on to angled, and that variability is itself an invitation. What I find rather striking about this tiara is the engineering. The 47 sunray fringes are not rigidly fixed into the base band. They are mounted on a flexible articulation that allows the entire fringe to be removed from the band and worn as a necklace. When Garrard built it in 1919, the workshop was responding to a request from the Queen Mary that the piece be transformable, usable as both tiara and necklace, depending on the formality of the evening. That dual function is largely forgotten today. None of the modern wearers have used the necklace conversion as far as the public record goes, but the piece can still do it. The mechanism is intact. Some Tuesday afternoon in a working royal vault, that piece could be reconfigured back into the necklace it was originally engineered to be. I'd love to see that, honestly. I think the Princess of Wales might be the first wearer in 100 years to try the necklace setting at a private dinner. That is speculation, but it is the kind of speculation that the tiara itself invites. The fifth piece I want to discuss is one she has already worn, and one she will almost certainly wear again. The Cartier Halo Tiara. This was the tiara she wore at her 2011 wedding, alongside the Queen Mary's fringe. Actually, no, I should correct that. She wore the Cartier halo at her wedding. The Queen Mary's fringe is the more famous wedding tiara of the family, but on April 29, 2011, the Princess of Wales actually wore the Cartier halo, lent to her by the late reigning Queen. The halo had been a 1936 wedding gift from a king to his future queen. A Cartier piece of 16 diamond scrolls set in platinum, light enough that it can be worn for long stretches without exhaustion. The piece had been worn rarely after the 1940s. The late reigning queen wore it as a young woman before she became queen. It was loaned to Princess Margaret in 1955. After that, the tiara stayed in the vault for nearly 6 decades, until 2011. The Princess of Wales wore it at her own wedding because it was offered by the late reigning queen and because it was understated. The Cartier halo does not photograph as boldly as the lover's knot or the fringe. It is delicate. It rewards patience. It works at white tie events where the wearer wants to convey elegance over spectacle. She has not worn it again since 2011. Some royal correspondents read this as deliberate. The halo was her wedding tiara, and like wedding gowns, it is set aside as memory rather than wardrobe. Others read it as practical. The halo is too small for state-level visibility. I'd argue something different. I think the Cartier halo is being held back deliberately for a future occasion. Possibly a daughter's coming-of-age moment. Possibly an anniversary state event where the wedding tiara symbolism would be the explicit message. The piece has only 14 years of dormancy attached to it now, short by royal vault standards. The Princess of Wales is, in her own way, just resting it. Picture this: Princess Charlotte, 10 years old, attending her first formal evening event. 20 years from now, say 2031, the year she comes of age in a royal sense, there is a coming-out moment, a first public dinner appearance. The mother needs to choose a tiara that she can lend to the daughter without overshadowing her, without overwhelming her, without claiming too much of the visual space in the photographs. That tiara is the Cartier halo. The same piece her mother wore at her own wedding, now lent to a daughter who is in the awkward in-between of childhood and royal adulthood. The provenance is exactly right. The scale is exactly right. The historical message, wedding day tiara passed to a daughter as her first major piece, is exactly right. I confess I am not making a prediction. I am describing a future scene I have already imagined because I have been a curator long enough to recognize when a piece is being held in reserve. The Cartier halo is being held, whether for Charlotte or for some other moment we cannot anticipate. The piece is in the vault, and its dormancy is intentional. 2 pieces left. The Oriental Circle tiara. In November 2025, the Princess of Wales arrived at a state banquet at Windsor Castle, wearing a tiara most royal correspondents had never seen on her, the Oriental Circle. This is a piece designed by Prince Albert for Queen Victoria in 1853, yes, that early, based on Mughal-influenced design with 17 circular settings, each holding a pearl or interchangeable opal. The piece had been worn by Queen Victoria, by an early 20th century queen consort, by the late reigning queen on several state occasions in the 1960s, and then it had largely sat in the vault for 60 years. Catherine wearing it in November 2025 was a deliberate act of provenance reclamation. The Oriental Circle is one of the older pieces in the collection, older than the lover's knot, older than the fringe, and choosing it placed her in conversation with Queen Victoria herself. That is a very particular kind of statement. Queen Victoria's wardrobe is loaded with monarchic precedent in a way that the Queen Mother's is not. To wear an Oriental Circle is to invoke not just the consort role, but the Queen Regnant role. I read this, and I want to be clear this is interpretation, not fact, as a soft preview of how she intends to occupy the consort space. Not as wife of, but as figure in her own right. The Oriental Circle is too dynastically loaded to be worn casually. Choosing it was the same kind of move as the Strathmore rose, but pointed in a different direction. The Strathmore rose says, quiet, long marriage. The Oriental Circle says, monarchic precedent. I expect we will see this tiara again, probably at coronation events when those come. probably at the next major state visit she hosts. The piece is too rich to leave dormant for another 60 years. The Oriental Circle has another quality I want to mention. It is one of the few tiaras in the British royal collection that was personally designed by a member of the royal family. Prince Albert sketched the original design in 1853. The workshop at Kitching and Abboud executed it. The piece is, in a real sense, a Prince Albert object, and Albert is an interesting figure to invoke. He was the consort who defined what consort meant in the modern British monarchy. He worked, he represented, he produced public outputs in art, architecture, and science. He died too young, and Queen Victoria's grief shaped the next 40 years of her reign. To wear an Albert-designed tiara is, I would argue, to invoke the consort role at its most ambitious, not wife of, but partner in public work. The Princess of Wales has not, in her public statements, claimed that ambition explicitly. She does not need to. The choice of the Oriental Circle does the talking. That is the curatorial reading. The seventh piece is the most disputed, the Spencer tiara. This one is not technically a royal tiara at all. It is a Spencer family piece, gifted by the Spencer family to the late Princess of Wales for her 1981 wedding to the Prince of Wales. The piece is a band of tulip-shaped diamond settings linked by green tourmaline accents, made in the 1930s in a workshop sanctioned by the Spencer family. It was the late Princess of Wales's wedding tiara. After her death, the tiara returned to the Spencer family. It is held by the current Earl Spencer, the late Princess of Wales's brother, at Althorpe House. It is not part of the royal collection. The Princess of Wales has, technically, no inheritance claim to it. But the Spencer family has informally indicated that the piece is available to female members of the broader family for major occasions. The current Earl Spencer's daughters have worn it at their weddings. The late Princess of Wales's nieces are the legal next in line. But the Princess of Wales, daughter-in-law to the late Princess of Wales and the senior royal woman of her generation, has a parallel claim of association. There has been quiet speculation in royal correspondence circles that the Spencer family might one day formally loan or gift the tiara to her, particularly if her daughter Princess Charlotte were to wear it. Honestly, I don't know if this will happen. The Spencer tiara is one of the most photographed wedding tiaras in modern memory. Its association with the late Princess of Wales is unbreakable in the visual record. To see Catherine wear it would be to invite the comparison. And royal protocol is generally cautious about that kind of invitation. So that is what we know about the Spencer tiara. It is the only one of the 7 pieces I have discussed that may never reach her. The other 6, Cambridge Lover's Knot, Strathmore Rose, Lotus Flower, Queen Mary's Fringe, Cartier Halo, Oriental Circle, are, by every reasonable reading of the records and the precedent, hers in waiting. Picture this one more time. The next coronation, whenever it comes. The Princess of Wales walks into Westminster Abbey. She is wearing a tiara. It will not be the imperial state crown. That is for the monarch, not the consort. It will be one of the pieces I have just walked you through. If I had to predict, I would predict the Strathmore Rose, because it carries no living memory binding it to a prior wearer, because the Queen Mother's quiet consort presence is the best template for the role she will have to play, because the diamond roses look better in cathedral light than the more grand pieces, and because, when she revived it for that German state banquet in late 2024, the message was already being practiced. But honestly, of all 7 pieces, the Cambridge Lover's Knot is the one I most expect she will make her signature when she becomes Queen Consort. Diana wore it. The provenance line through her late mother-in-law to Catherine is the kind of inheritance moment that defines a reign. And honestly, when I see her wear it now, I see 2 women, the one wearing it and the one who taught the world what it looked like. Tell me which of these 7 you would most hope to see her wear first. The Cambridge Lover's Knot for the Diana Echo, the Strathmore Rose for the Queen Mother quote, the Lotus Flower for the Margaret Reset, the Queen Mary's Fringe for the Wedding Anniversary Reprise, the Cartier Halo for the Personal Memory Return, the Oriental Circle for the Monarchic Precedent, or the Spencer Tiara if the family ever offers it. I read every comment. Tell me what you think. But before I go, there is one piece in the British royal collection that the Princess of Wales is almost certainly never going to wear. Not because she does not want to, not because the piece is unsuitable, but because of a decision made before her time, on a tiara loan request that was openly refused. The story of that refusal is the next thing I want to tell you. Because what happened in 2018 between the late reigning queen and a different royal bride is one of the most documented refused tiara moments in modern royal history. And the consequences of that refusal still shape the working list available to Catherine today. That is for next time.